Okay, so welcome to our first Midweek Morning Meetup that we're hosting. We're going to do one each week. I started working on next week's. Each week, I want to kind of emphasize some sort of technology, some sort of resources in general that can be used to help with remote teaching. We're living in strange times, right? I heard probably the best two really good comments about what's going on right now. One was an education professor at not JMU, somewhere, who said, we keep calling this online learning. This isn't online learning. This is essentially triage, right? There is a disaster that is happening. Online learning, you take a semester at least to get everything organized and put together, and we're given a week, we're given 2 weeks to do this. And so it's, calling this online learning is not accurate, I would say. And so, this is almost like an emergency room triage of we have to determine, okay, so what's the valuable components that we're going to teach, and then how are we going to do it? And then, it feels like the goalpost keeps moving on us, right? So even once you get it kind of figured out, then it just seems to be constantly moving a little bit on us. So I just thought that this would be a good way to try to help out in any way, shape, or form that we can by hosting these. And so we're starting small because usually we take weeks to promote our workshops. And this one we put together on, I think, Friday and put it out there. And so I appreciate you all for signing up. And please, if you wouldn't mind, spread the word. I'd like to get as many teachers involved in this as possible, just because I think that we can do some good. At the very least, trying to get a network put together for teachers to use to communicate with each other. And try to share out what works and what doesn't work, and what frustrations they might be having, and things of that nature. So like any good PD, right, or any good PLC, we've got some basic norms to get going, right? So if you have any resources that you're sharing out, we've already kind of started doing this, but if you would, please type them out in the chat, or if you have the link, that'd be great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and save the chat when we're done, and then all of those links and resources, what I'll do is I'll compile them, and then I'll send them out to everyone at the end. Later on today. I, of course, have Zoom meetings going throughout the day, so it'll have to be sometime during the breaks in the Zoom meetings that I think we are all kind of becoming familiarized with now. It's just kind of becoming the norm. Also, if you would, and this, I guess, doesn't really matter too much for today, but just make sure that you're muting yourself. I've been in a couple of them so far. There was one really funny one that I was in with the St. Louis Fed yesterday. I don't know if any of you all were in that one. But the St. Louis Fed was leading one, and it was on Econ Lowdown, and I'm relatively familiar with Econ. I'm familiar with the sources, and I've set up a classroom through Econ Lowdown before, but, it's been a couple of years, and I wanted to see what was going on. But there were a couple of people that just did not mute at all, and they were, like, yelling at their kids, and their dogs were barking, and it is what it is. I mean, it's not, what are you going to do? And so it's just kind of comical. So just please, if you wouldn't mind, mute yourself. I think I have it set to automatically mute you when you come in. But I'm not entirely sure on that one. So also, if you want renewal credits, you'll get 1 hour for this. But if you would, please, we're going to share out a bit link to the Google form survey for this. And in the survey, it just asks you to add your email to the survey. That way we just have verification that you were here. Helps us out with our sponsors, helps you guys out with getting the renewal points that you'll need. And if we're going to do one of these every week, then, it's only one per week, but those add up. And so, please we'll share that out at the end. I'll put that in the chat at the end, or at the very least, I'll email it to you as well so that you can get it done that way. And I've got to scoot my faces over. And then, of course, if you have any questions, if you would share them in the comments. And then whenever I see the comment kind of bing up, I'll take a look at them, and we can go that route. But honestly, with a group this size, if you just want to shout out some of the questions when there's a lull, by all means, feel free. And any of the VCE people that are on board, if you have anything that you need to add, or that you feel like I'm leaving out, please, by all means, step over it and step on my presentation, and please shout out some stuff if you think that it's that I've missed something. So so before we get going, let's start with just a quick introduction. That way we kind of are familiarized with who everyone is. And I saw someone do this and just kind of ask for introductions, and people were kind of stepping over each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read down the list that I have in front of me here, So that way we're not stepping on each other when we're talking. So first off, my name is John Krugel. I'm at the JMU Center for Econ Ed. I tried to advertise the Virginia Council for Economic Education, our center, as well as our sponsor. It's mirrored. There we go. Our sponsor, FSVEE, very generous sponsor that covers my salary and allows us to do all the stuff that we do. And but I've been here for about 2 years and at the JMU Center, and excited to try to help out in any way, shape, or form that I can. My wife is an elementary school teacher. My 2 kids are in elementary school. I've got a first grader and a third grader. And so I've been following along kind of, remotely, I guess, to put it in today's terms, on how she's had to deal with it and kind of how things have been evolving for her as the news has kind of been shifting on how the process works. She spent 6 hours or so yesterday at her school making copies for the handouts. They're going to do one last packet to give the kids. Or at least they're planning that it will be their last packet. I know some schools are planning on kind of staggering the packets. Her school is just basically saying, you know what, things have changed so much that let's just get those packets out and try to get as much stuff put in them so that it can lead us to the end if need be. And so they are not doing any virtual education because they don't have the internet connectivity for their students is not great. So they're just doing everything as handouts. And so that's, something we can talk about as well today, is just kind of how things are going in that general direction. So that's a brief intro on myself. And I'm going to toss it to Becky Booth from University of Lynchburg. Becky, make sure you unmute.
Hi, I'm Becky Booth. I'm with the Center for Economic Education at the University of Lynchburg, and I have been there about 10 years. So time flies when you're having fun. And so like John at JMU, I work with teachers within our area to provide instruction on how to teach economics and personal finance. I love what I do. And before this, I taught high school for 16 years. 2 of those years, though, were middle school. But my heart is in education, and we're glad to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Becky. Let's kick it to Kate Scott at George Mason.
Hi, I'm Kate Scott at George Mason University Center for Economic Education. And I'm really excited, Emily, that you are here with us as an Arlington teacher. I'm glad to meet with you, and Ruth. You're a legend in the world of econ ed. So I'm so excited to learn from you today. I also have elementary school children-ish. I have a 4th grader and a 4-year-old who is 4 for the next 3 days, and then will be a full hand's worth. And she's going to have a virtual Zoom singing of happy birthday to her, because that Chuck E. Cheese birthday party is not going to work out this year. But I was in the classroom for 6 years as a business management administration CTE teacher. And before that, spent 5 years in healthcare administration. So business and industry and education experience. I'm just excited to be a part of this group. We've lost John's.
Perfect. Sorry, I'm muting through I'm using a microphone now instead of my computer audio. So I was trying to do the old trick on muting. So I apologize. And let's kick it to Ruth Sisman.
Good morning, everyone. I'm an econ and personal finance teacher at Albemarle High School. Yes, I have a CTE background myself. I started back when graduation requirement. I begged to teach this class because I love it. At our district, it is not broken down where the CTE teachers teach the personal finance side of it, and social studies teach econ. Anyone can teach it, which has kind of been a bone of contention for me, but we have a really good lead coach this year, and she is really pushing to integrate this with us so that everybody's doing the whole thing. Sorry, I'm touching my nose. I got a dog and a cat that is, it's shedding time, and thank goodness I was muted a little while ago when they decided to fight. So that's just me, and I have a passion for this, and I'm so glad for that I found VCEE resources, found John because he's my regional person. the great resources that I've gotten and help in classes as well. And so glad to, as I said, I've met some of you, and so glad to meet everyone else.
Perfect. Thank you. And let's kick it to Ruth Cookson.
Hey everybody, I'm Ruth Cookson. I'm the director of the Center for Economic Education at Old Dominion University. I taught for 10 years in Norfolk Public Schools, social studies, history, government, civics, geography, all of that. And since 2002, I've been at the ODU Center for Economic Education, helping teachers teach econ and personal finance. So welcome everybody.
All right. Amy, I don't know. Did you want to introduce yourself as well, or do you want to linger in the back? Okay, never mind. Here we go.
I guess I can introduce myself. Hi, everybody. I'm Amy Hager. I'm actually a communications consultant with BCEE, and so I'm helping John and some of our center directors transfer their learning opportunities right now to Zoom. And every time you get an email, usually it's probably created by me. So thank you so much for opening and reading and joining us today.
And last but certainly not least, Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily Ruskowski. I am a high school teacher in Arlington Public Schools. I was formerly a middle school teacher. I teach family and consumer sciences. So I'm just looking to see how I can integrate personal finance more, particularly online, because it's not something I'm super familiar with at the moment.
Great. Well, like I said, thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate it. Today we're basically building the plane in the air, right? As it's flying, we're trying to put it all together and see what's just trying to make it work, right? And so hopefully we can give you guys some resources that will help out with the transition and make it with as little turbulence as possible, I guess, to keep the airline expression going, I guess. So anyways, so I wanted to start with just one of the big things that I've been seeing posting around social media. I just really love this. I saw it the last couple of days. I've seen it kind of around, and I think that this is so perfect for what teachers are doing, right? Of course, you tie it to Dr. Seuss, but the idea, right? I will teach you in a room. I'll teach you now on Zoom. I mean, I had never really heard of Zoom until all of this came down. There was the occasional, we'd have an online meeting with, some national organizations, and we'd all pair up on Zoom, but it was once every maybe year. And so now it's a daily occurrence that we're on Zoom. So one of the things that I am actually going to incorporate into my econ course that I'm teaching here in a couple of weeks is how Zoom has all of a sudden kind of overtaken. I mean, everyone used to use, I guess WhatsApp would be kind of a common way of doing it. Yet Skype was a big way that people would Skype in, experts and things. And now Zoom has just kind of overtaken everything. And so the network effect with Zoom, and how Zoom has just kind of incorporated itself into everyone's computer. All of everyone's downloaded the app or, bookmarked the page. And so now it's become, it's almost like a Microsoft product, right? Like if you type something up, you're probably going to use Microsoft Word. Google has been able to edge their way into it in recent years, especially with Google Classroom. But Zoom has really just all of a sudden, so Zoom has just really kind of overtaken any of these other organizations. And so the network effect that Zoom has, to me, is just, it's been impressive if you're looking at ways to integrate kind of current events into your econ or personal finance class, right? The way that Zoom is just really overtaken. So I will teach you in your house, right? Like I said, I'm fortunate. I have a elementary school teacher for a wife who is currently actually teaching our children upstairs, right? And so I don't know that everyone has that, luxury this time if they have small children. And so it'll be interesting to see what impact this has long-term on the teaching profession, right? I mean, just in general, right? So I'll teach you with a mouse, right? Of course, play on words there. I'll teach you here and there. I'll teach you because I care, right? We've seen how many schools have stepped up immensely with the operations that they have. Whether it's providing Wi-Fi through buses, right? I don't know if any of you have heard of any districts that are doing this, but I know of a couple of districts that have basically reworked their buses to add mobile Wi-Fi. And they drive and they go to different areas of their community, and they just have a schedule, and the kids know, hey, look, you've got from, let's say 1:00 p.m. to 2:00 p.m. to work on your stuff, because we'll have the mobile Wi-Fi hotspot there on the bus. Now it's extremely expensive, and so I don't know that a lot of schools are doing it, but some, especially if they just have the need for it, have started to convert buses for that. Obviously, you have mobile cafes, which our mobile cafe at our local school just got shut down. I'm rubbing my eye. I'm sorry, Ruth. I know we're not supposed to be touching our face or anything like that, but mobile cafe just got shut down, but they're still handing out food at the schools. And so it's amazing how much schools have stepped up and how much teachers have stepped up, like yourselves, coming to these to learn about how to make yourselves better and how to transition in these insane times, right? So do your very best and do not worry about the rest. Just in general, right? So I did want to point out some resources that we have on our website. And so I'm going to transition to the website itself and show you guys that. Let's see here. There we go. So if you go to the Virginia Council's website, and I don't know, I think Ruth Sisman, you've seen this, but if you click here in the corner, you've got remote learning. Actually, let me turn on, and I'm going to show you how to do this, but I'm going to turn on the spotlight feature. Can you all see now the highlight that the cursor has on it when I'm trying to show you what's going on? So I'll show you how to do this if you plan on using Zoom at all. But so we have remote learning lessons that we've been trying to put together as quickly as possible for y'all. And so then you can pick middle school, high school, elementary, or if you're using the stock market games, specific ones there. And if you know of anything that we're not including, please, by all means, feel free to send it to vcee@vcu.edu. And that would be great. Anything that you know of that you think would be beneficial to other teachers, we're just trying to become a large repository for all the information that we can, so that you can go to one site instead of having to try to find a whole bunch of different places. And so if you click, I'm going to show this one in particular because it relates to my home life in a roundabout way. So if we click on elementary, I might have to turn off the spotlight to do it. There we go. So if you go to elementary, you got personal finance principles, right? And so one of the things, and it links to the Econ Ed Link site with the printables, right? So you can open the activity here. It has a general description about the activity. If you're just curious, you don't want to download it, you want to open it up, you want to kind of see it first. And so, but if you open it, it'll take you to this. And this is great, even if you just have kids at home. Yes, sorry. And so, even if you just have little kids at home, or if you have friends that have little kids, this is great to just find some of them and print off. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because yesterday, my wife, when she was going into work to put together those packets for her students, she went on Teachers Pay Teachers to buy printables on personal finance like this. And it was, yes, Ruth, yes, head smack on that one, because she did it while I wasn't, she did it while I was in a Zoom meeting with another, a different Zoom meeting. And so I come out and I see that she's got this stuff. And I said, what are you doing? And she said, well, I went on Teachers Pay Teachers and I got this stuff. And I told her, I was like, you have betrayed me in all that I do. I'm going to lose my job because you're doing this stuff. So anyways, so they have all these printables and my giving goal, they've got all sorts of stuff in that one. So even if you just have little kids, that's great. And the thing is, I have a hard copy of this in my bag right now. Like, she could have taken my hard copy to the school, made copies, but she didn't. So please, please, please reach out to us if you have a need for an econ resource. We have tons. I mean, there are literally thousands of resources that we have available. So anyway, so again, if you go to the remote learning on the Virginia Council website, right? So can you guys see me highlighting the vce.org website? Okay, good. So, and then If you want elementary, if you want middle or high, they're there as well. And again, we try to give you a description of it ahead of time so you can see that, concepts that are covered, and then grades that you can use. And then there's the hyperlink to the activity as well as the source where the activity comes from. So maybe you don't like the individual activity, but you want to check out what the source has available besides that. It's right there for you. And we've been compiling these as quickly as we can, as many as we can. But again, if you have any of these resources that are not on, or any resources that are not on here that you'd like to share out, please feel free to email. And you can email myself or any of the rest of us as well. You don't, if you forget what this email is, just shoot me an email or shoot Kate or Becky or Ruth or any of us an email, and we would love to just add any of the content that you are aware of that you're using that you think other teachers could benefit from. And so that's just one of the first things that I wanted to share with you all is that website. And I wanted to take a minute to pause to ask if there are any questions and just let you guys shout them out if you have them. And then also I wanted to, Susan McNamara has joined us, and I want to give her a chance to introduce herself as well. So actually, let's start by letting Susan introduce herself. And then if you all have any questions about anything, now would be a great time to field those as well.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Hey, Ruth, do you remember me? Ruth, unmute your speaker. Are you there?
There's two of us, Ruth Cookson and Ruth Sisman.
No, Ruth Sisman. You and I have done professional development in the past.
Okay.
Together. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. So glad you're here.
Oh, thank you. Me too. How's everybody else today?
Doing well.
Good. All right. Well, I'm just popping in and paying attention to what's going on too, and wanted to say good morning to everybody. And for those of you who don't know, I just started my 4th week, 3 of which I've been working from home. So it's an adjustment for me too, but I'm trying to, navigate my way through different things and, moving forward with governor's challenges and et cetera. But I'm glad to be on board and working with a fine team of wonderful professionals who really want to help teachers navigate some of these difficult times. So I hope you're all staying well, and I'm on board. So if you have any questions later and you need to get with me, that's fine. Otherwise, I'm just going to pay attention too. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. Ruth, Emily, do you all have any questions about the site that we have there in general? Okay.
No, I'm good.
Okay. So I wanted to highlight, I just saw something pop up. So one of the things that I've seen a lot of teachers doing is they're trying to find ways to incorporate their existing PowerPoints into their classes. And so I wanted to show you a way to record those and share them out with your kids. If you are interested in doing it that way, this would be a way to use online learning, but do it asymmetrically, and also, but they would still need online accessibility for it. So there is that element. And I will say, if you're one of the things that I've seen a lot of the econ professors at JMU doing is they've just been recording their entire lecture as is. Yeah, they're not chunking it up. And I dummied up the whole time. I wasn't going to say a word because I'm not the guy to bring that up, that it's not best practices. But really, 5 to 10 minutes, you want to chunk it up. You want bite-sized nuggets of knowledge. You don't want to try to give them a full 50 minutes, or if you're 70 minutes or 90 minutes, whatever the time length that you normally would have. It's just, we're not living in a world like that right now. Experts have also said that what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to identify what are the key concepts that you would have covered this time of year, and then eliminate half of them. And then, so you're going to want to really isolate what are your biggest topics. What's your top 5 or what have you of topics that you would have normally covered, and that's what you're going to be able to get now. we're just not going to be able to cover the same amount of content as we normally would have in person. And it's unfortunate, but I think it's the reality of where we're at. And so I think if you try to cover everything, it's going to be a frustrating situation for yourself as well as your students. And it's almost going to be defeating, right? And one of the things that we want to make sure is that we want to make sure that you all take care of yourselves as well as your students, right? I mean, you don't want to get yourself in a situation where you get frustrated at what's going on. And so I think setting realistic expectations is a big part of that. But what you can do is you can use Zoom to film a PowerPoint. And so what you would do is you would essentially do a screen share like what I'm doing, and you would record it scrolling through the PowerPoint. So what I have here is a PowerPoint that I'm scrolling through using screen share. You would just have it with your own, like you wouldn't invite other people, obviously. It would just be you, and you cannot see me on the screen, correct? Ruth and Emily, shake your head yes or no if you can see me. No, you cannot, right? So you can hear my voice though, correct? And so if you wanted to, you could use Zoom to narrate using the PowerPoint, and then you could just scroll through the PowerPoint and record it and call it a day. And so one other thing that you can do, I want to turn my spotlight on again, is you can also, if you do have a chance to do office hours and you want to just catch up on stuff and ask questions, you can have the reactions icon, which is when you hover at the bottom of your screen, you should see reactions icon. You should see essentially this bar, right? It disappears if you're not hovering over it because it doesn't want to be a distraction. But what you can do is you can click on the reactions icon right here. And when you do that, you see a little wavy hand and a thumbs up. And so what you can do is you can actually, that's a way of doing kind of a formative, a check for understanding in real time, right? You can say, does everybody understand? Give me a thumbs up if you do. Give me a wave if you still need me to go back over, right? And so that way you can get a quick one, and it pops up on the corners of their screens that they're seeing. Obviously, you can use the chat function as well, but I just want to kind of highlight some of the basics of using Zoom if you wanted to use it to reach out to some of your students. I know some of the professors are having Zoom office hours with 50 kids at a time. I don't know that that's best practices either. I think you probably want to stagger those and create smaller groups. Other things that you can do as far as using Zoom to share your screen, right? So just basics, right? When you use screen share, if you want to, if you are brave and you want to have your students have a big Zoom meeting with all of your students, and you want to do something where you want to share your screen, and you can then click on the little arrow right here. You click on that, you can get advanced sharing options. And you can set it to where multiple participants can share their screen so that you can have a conversation where you want to talk about like shifting curves, or if you want them to draw whatever, you want them to write something using the text option, which is right, which I'll show you in a little bit on some of the screen captures that I've done. You can do that if you want. I am not brave enough to try that because all it takes is one squirrel, right? I'm already worried that someone's going to Zoom bomb this meeting and shut it down. I don't know if you guys have been reading any of the articles about Zoom bombing that's been going on, but it's crazy. People are just, anarchists essentially are just coming in and wrecking Zoom chats. To quote Batman, right? Some people just want to watch the world burn, so they just come in and they wreck it and call it a day, right? So anyway, so who can start sharing when someone else is sharing, right? So you can do all participants, or you can do only host. Really, you can determine how the screen sharing works. And so if you want to do that with a group of kids, you can, and you can let them discuss amongst themselves with screen sharing option, right? And so all you have to do, again, is click on that arrow, click advanced sharing options. This screen will pop up. And then you can choose on any of those if you want to use Zoom as a way to remotely communicate with some of your kids. And I know my kids' teachers, with them being in elementary school, Seesaw is a big part of what they do. It's not so much in the secondary level, at least not in my experience. But they have, they've been just meeting every couple of minutes. They just record themselves saying hi. And you can do that as well. You can just record yourself saying hi, how are you doing? Just want to check in. Please feel free to reach out. You can record that and send that out as well. You don't just have to record a PowerPoint. And that has been powerful for my kids to see their teachers. It's been big. And so obviously Flipgrid's another way you can do that. We're gonna talk about Flipgrid at a different week though. We're not gonna try to jam too much in. So, okay. So when you do screen share, you're going to see these options, right? And so you can see I did this like last night. You can see the little cave background there. I put a green screen background up to kind of highlight. But you choose, if you want to choose your camera that's on your screen, right? You would click that. The whiteboard one is my favorite, and I'll show you that a little bit in a minute. You can also share your phone. And this is awesome if you wanted to, if you want to do like a doc cam, but you don't have a doc cam, right? What you do is you basically set up your phone, and I can share out the video. I'll share out the video that I saw on Facebook that I shared to, and I don't know if you all are part of this or not, but the Marginal Revolution University, MRU, has a new Facebook page where it's just for econ teachers, and it's the COVID-19 page, essentially, where it's just sharing out ideas for how to transition. And it's really great. There's a lot of professors involved in it, so some of it might not be that useful, but it's great just to kind of scroll through. But what I'll do is I share the same video that I shared on there, where someone basically has taken their iPad or iPhone, and they stacked books up, and they put the phone, they put a book over the phone to kind of wedge it in there. And then they have their paper right below the phone, and they're writing on it like it's a doc cam. And so what you do is you then use that as your screen share option. Using your phone, you can then use it as a doc cam. And so that is, if you're used to that kind of a method of teaching, that's a way to do it using Zoom. Or you could do a similar kind of setup with Whiteboard, and I'll show you how to do that here in a little bit. You could share your PowerPoint like what I'm doing. This is the screen that I clicked on to share this PowerPoint. Any of the things that you have open will share, right? So at that time you can see, I don't know if you can see or not, but the snipping tool, I had just taken a snip of the advanced settings on screen sharing. And so that was up. Your internet will be accessible. So if you want to share, like I shared the website for VCE remote learning, that you can just click on that and that'll pop up. And so those are all the share options. And you'll notice that I indicated you can also share your computer sound. Something that we're going to do tomorrow is the fiscal ship, and so I want to make sure that I share the computer sound on the fiscal ship with the online webinar that we're going to do, or online workshop we're going to do tomorrow, because there are a lot of sound effects that help indicate stuff in that game. Optimize screen, if you want to share a video clip, you want to click that as well. So maybe there's a YouTube click, or Ruth, you were talking about Is It? If you want to share an Is It video, you'd want to click on that button to optimize your screen. It's not a big deal, but it does make it a little less glitchy and stuff like that. And then of course, whatever you pick, then you click share. So let's say I want to share my screen. So I hit that, it'll highlight it blue like it has there. You see how it's blue and the other ones are all white. Once you highlight it, you then click share, and now that screen's going to show up on your screen. And so that's just how you do the share screen option. It really isn't difficult once you get going with it. The first time it can be a little intimidating. I recommend doing what I did, which is just find a buddy. I emailed Kate and said, hey, let's practice some Zoom and see how this works. And so Kate and I just bounced back and forth practicing Zoom. So, and you can even do it like, I practiced with my wife, she was in another room, and we just Zoomed back and forth just to see that I could do it before we did this. So, I mean, and once you do a couple of times, you're always going to mess up. There's always going to be something, but you mess up, it's pretty easy to figure stuff out. So that's sharing. Now I wanted to show you, once you get into the share, you'll see this at the top of your screen, right? So you can stop the share at any time. You can also pause the share if you wanted to swap out and not have kind of a herky-jerky kind of a screen swap happening. You could pause the share, and it's like doing a screen freeze with your projector, right? It'll just keep whatever's up there up while you're transitioning whatever you need to transition in the background. So that's that. And then the whiteboard, you can obviously, once you get the whiteboard, then you can get your tools, right? So this also will pop up right below it. And so you can add text to the screen if you want. You can draw lines. You can do a couple of emoji stamps, like a thumbs up or a heart and stuff like that are there. The spotlight one is the one that I'm using right now to highlight my cursor red. That to me has been extremely beneficial because it allows kids, it's very much like Screencast-O-Matic, or is it Screencastify? I forget, whichever the screen one was, where you'd have a little highlight and you could film it. It's a very similar way of doing it. It's a little more user-friendly. You can erase any of the annotations here. I'll show you that a little bit more on the format. And then of course you got undo, redo, and clear. And then you can save whatever you draw up on the screen. So if you wanted to draw it in a practice session and then save it, then you could pull it up for your next round. That way you don't have to waste time drawing, like if you want to do a supply and demand curve, or if you wanted to, I don't know, use the text feature to write up some questions that maybe you then want to screen share with your students for them to answer. You could do that way and then save it. I would say that Pear Deck is probably a better way of doing that if you want to do that. And we're going to talk more about Pear Deck next week. Again, I didn't want to jam too much stuff into a 1 hour thing. I'd rather go deep on each of the ed tech tools and kind of spread it out rather than try to hit as many as possible and do a poor job of it. Or at least I hope I'm doing a pretty good job explaining Zoom rather than doing a kind of hit and run element of it. Okay, so if you choose the draw icon here, this is what you'll see, right? So you can draw, and the reason why I wanted to show you this is you can draw just kind of a thin line, thicker line. You can also draw arrows, right, which are beneficial if you're trying to draw a supply and demand curve. This is where I really highlight for this, the straight line or the arrows, right? You can draw an outline of a square or a circle, kind of a somewhat translucent square or circle, or you can have a filled in square or circle, right? And so these are options. So if you want to do a table, you could do this kind of a square, or I'm sorry, this kind of a square, and then draw the lines in it to make a table if you want. Just in general. Also with the format, let's say you wanted to change the color of your lines. Let's say you want to go red or blue or what have you, and then you want to make them thicker. If you want to change the font of the text, stuff like that, you would pick that. So again, that's just if you click on the format. When I tried to line them up with my screen captures, hopefully they're making sense. But when you click on the format, this is the drop down that'll show up. And it's, again, it's a pretty easy way of doing it. Once you play around with it a little bit, it's pretty easy to use. And then, like I said, this is the spotlight feature. So what I've done is I click on this little icon right here so that my cursor is highlighted like that. If you wanted to really draw attention to, let's say you threw up a PDF and you wanted to draw attention to something in the article, right? You could have this little arrow pop up, maybe in the margin, and you could say, hey, look here, right? So that's a way of maybe highlighting without being able to highlight the whole thing individually. So you do want to be careful with hyperlinks on your PowerPoint. And I screwed this up a couple of times when we were doing our practice run. If you click on a hyperlink on your PowerPoint is still the only thing that is being shared. So you will see your hyperlink. It will take you to the internet site that you're trying to get to. No one else will see that. So what you want to do is if you want to share a new website, you click on New Share. Or if you want to switch, whatever it is you want to do, if you want the kids to see something new, you have to click New Share. Once you click New Share, it will take you back to this screen where you can then, so instead of doing the hyperlink, click on this one, which will then take you to your internet site options, right? It'll just take you to whatever Internet Explorer, or Explorer doesn't exist anymore, does it? So Google Chrome or what have you that you're going to pop up. That will be what takes you there rather than using the hyperlink option. So I did want to show you some of how that works. So let me go to New Share. And I did want to take a minute to show you some of the other stuff that we have online. So again, I went to New Share, and then I clicked on the online option, right? So, and Ruth Cookson sent this out yesterday. So I wanted to give her a chance to talk. Actually, I lied to you, Ruth, I'm sorry. First, I wanted to highlight this resource that California Council for Econ Ed has put together. And so it's a daily dose of econ, right? And the only reason why I know this is because for some reason they tagged me on their Twitter post with it, which was great because I wouldn't have known about it otherwise. But so what they have here, and again, I'm going to go back to the, so notice, can you see my cursor scrolling? Give me a nodding yes or no if you can see it. You can see it. But what might make it easier to see is this, especially against a white background, right? So even with this, you can still choose the spotlight option to highlight your cursor. And so what you can do is you can highlight there, and you see that this is an article about, look, April 1st, 2020, an article that you can use for equilibrium. So Ruth Sisman, you were talking about wanting to find ways to teach about the current COVID-19 issues with your students. They update this every day, March 31st, March 30th, and they give you different topics, right? So you can see the topic right there, fiscal policy, right? Marginal thinking, marginal analysis. And maybe you're like me and you're like, marginal thinking, I don't know what that means, right? And so you click on it. Maybe I might have to use, there we go. It's thinking. So it's got the key question there. right? These are you're at the store buying some essentials. The store is limiting the quantity of milk that a household can buy. And you have to understand, stores are doing this, right? Like my wife went to Walmart. We tried to do the where they bring it to your car at Martin's. And they came out and they were able to bring us like half of what we ordered. Because of course it took like 3 days for us to get, on available spot. And so by the time that happened, most of, half of it was gone. So then we went to Walmart anyways. And she got some toilet paper. When she got it, they had a sign saying they were going to limit you to one thing of toilet paper. And so anyway, so you've got that you are at the store buying some essentials. The store is limiting the quantity of milk to one container, which some stores are doing, right? How much would you be willing to pay to buy an additional gallon, right? And so now you're talking about price controls, right? Price floors and ceilings. And what's crazy is now we have a real world example of it, right? Stores are actually doing this. What was it, Denmark or the Danes? I always get my Nordic countries kind of switched up. But there's the example that they show where if you want to buy one, the first one is at regular price and the second one was like an extra $20 on top of the original price. And so they're just saying, look, if you want to buy two, that's fine, but you're going to pay a lot more for it, right? And so it's an interesting way of going about it, right? So, but now you can use COVID to teach about price floors and ceilings using real world examples through this California Council on Econ Ed's page, right? And so I thought that this was just amazing. When they shared it, I was super excited that they shared this out and that they're putting this together. And again, it's every day they're adding something new. And so it's good news, bad news, right? Because it's great because they've got all these articles and you can print the articles, you can have the questions ready to go. But it's bad news because if you need to have your packet ready and then they add something that's super, super exciting afterwards, then, it's a hit and miss. But you know what? Then you got it for next year. And so nothing's perfect, but that's a way to look at it. So Ruth, especially, I thought of what you were asking about with this site. I think that this is really going to be great. Now I'll add this to the email. I'll add all the links to all the stuff that we're talking about in the email that I'll send out. And Emily, you said you were facts and personal finance, correct? Make sure you unmute. Sorry.
Sorry, just family and consumer sciences. So I teach food and fitness, fashion careers, and interior design.
So now with the pricing article, marginal thinking one, would that work well for your class, do you think, as well? Or?
Yeah, because they can think about any of the essentials that they need, whether it's food or toilet paper, cleaning supplies, whatever you deem quote unquote essential.
Perfect. I just want to make sure that it was beneficial to everyone rather than just, I don't want to leave anybody out, right? And so again, they've got arbitrage. Arbitrage is an interesting concept. It's like a lot of econ, there's kind of funky words that go with it, but the concept is relatively simple, right? And so you could use that to explain a somewhat difficult concept. I've been working with a teacher that's trying to do a lot of ELL for their students, trying to teach a lot of these concepts. And really the biggest issue is the vocab, right? Words like arbitrage, how do you explain that to someone in a different language, right? When they're non-native speakers. And so that's the biggest hurdle that they've been facing. So anyway, so I wanted to show that site, but I also don't want to take away from Ruth Cookson's time to discuss. And so I'm going to try to, we'll see if this will work. I'm going to try to swap out. I got to move some stuff around. I'm sorry, I was moving my things. So now everything's weirding out on me. So Ruth, I wanted to share out the screen time with you. For some reason, it's not popping up. I've moved too many things around and I think now it's creating issues.
John, if you just stop sharing your screen, Ruth can start sharing hers.
Hey, there we go. Perfect. That's why it wasn't popping up. All right, Ruth, you're up.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Let me pull up the, yes. So can everybody see my screen? Yeah, okay. Let me just minimize this. I'm at the, let me just go back. So I'm at the Dragus Center for Economic Education's website. No, I'm sorry. I'm the Center for Economic Education, the Dragus Center for Economic Analysis and Policy, which is at Old Dominion University. And they have been doing updates. And one of the things that I wanted to share was their info that just came out about unemployment statistics in the state of Virginia. So let me see if I can get there. So it's CEAP ODU, Center for Economic Analysis and Policy, ODU. But these breaking statistics, so dramatic rise in unemployment, this is their press release. And I'm going to scroll down because this is the chart that I wanted to show everybody. So let me, here we go. Can everybody see the full chart now? I just did that on a whim and I think it worked. So, but this is, I think, kind of shocking as you're looking at the initial claims for unemployment. You could see this is week ending March 14th and jumping just 1 week to March 21st, the change, the percentage change from the prior week. And it kind of hits home about how hard this is on everyone. Also, how it is, this is just for Hampton Roads. And I'm gonna just come back because there should be one that's also statewide. So there's the graph. Let me go to, let me just go back. So that was just Hampton Roads, but there is, again, I'm really sorry about the screen, but so this is Virginia wide. And if you could take a look up there in Fairfax County, 145 from March 14th, and then 1 week later, 4,000. And the percentage changes from each week. So I thought this chart would be a really good introduction to unemployment, or just as a way to talk, have students talking or discussing or writing about what's happening in the world from an econ standpoint and looking at this from the unemployment rate.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a better way to say it than like that's a great resource to share, like because it's crazy, right? Like the increase. I mean, what was the most recent? The Federal Reserve just put out 32% unemployment.
Right.
Is their prediction?
Is their prediction,
which is just mind-boggling.
In just as a comparison, at the height of the Great Depression, the U3 rate, which is the regular unemployment rate, was 26%. That's the height of the Great Depression. So now we're looking at something in the 30s. But of course, the difference between the Great Depression and now is that we have unemployment insurance, we have Social Security, that there are safety measures, food stamps. We have that social safety net in place that was not available during the Great Depression. So again, but still staggering.
And Emily and Ruth, I want to thank you for coming, giving up your time. Hopefully this is beneficial. I always try to say, hopefully the marginal benefit at least was equal to the marginal cost of you being here. And I hope to see you again. And like I said, please spread the word. We want to try to help as many teachers as possible with these weekly meetings. I know it's not every week is possible, but hopefully, at least a couple of them. And please reach out to any of us if you have any questions. So yeah, not as scared of Zoom now, right? And that's why I wanted to start with that, because I feel like that's the number one go-to for a lot of teachers right now. So that's why I want to start with that. But we are at 11 o'clock, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So Emily and Ruth, I appreciate it, and thank you so much.